Hello, everyone. This is Tom Brady, the Associate Dean for the Public Services Division at the College of DuPage, and I'm also the Director of the Homeland Security Training Institute at College of DuPage. And as we're all hunkered down, most of us, at home, and I'm not able to do our regular Homeland Security Training Institute podcast, we're creating some Zoomcasts. And today I have a guest who's been a friend of the Homeland Security Training Institute for quite some time in DuPage County. I have the DuPage County Coroner, Dr. Richard Jorgensen, joining me. Dr. Jorgensen, how are you?
Good. We're holding up pretty well, and the county's doing pretty well so far through this epidemic.
Well,
yeah,
the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic has affected everyone and every organization. And could you talk a little bit about how it's impacted the DuPage County Coroner's Office and your employees?
Yeah. So we're essential workers. The investigation of deceased persons and our job doesn't change because of this pandemic. People still commit suicide and kill people and get in accidents, and there are deceased persons that continue on through the county. So we are not able to work from home or hunker down, which I suggest that everybody that can do, they do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I'm not criticizing anybody for doing that, but our deputies and I are here every single day, and we're out in the front lines doing the same work that we do every day. We're being especially careful concerning this virus. We're treating it very seriously, like everyone else is, and trying to stay protected as much as possible. So we're doing our work in the usual fashion, but doing it with extreme caution and care to make sure that we're protected.
Sure. Dr. Jorgensen, can you talk a little bit about your background and how long you've been the DuPage County Coroner?
Yeah, thanks. I'm a medical doctor. I've lived in DuPage County my whole life, and became a general vascular and trauma surgeon and worked at Central DuPage Hospital for 20 years. Then I developed allergies to chemicals and fabrics in the operating room and had to quit operating. And after that, I decided to use the knowledge and experiences that I've had in my medical career toward the coroner's office. And as you know, the coroner's office is often called the medical examiner's office as well. So I'm using my medical skills and my medical knowledge now as the coroner for DuPage County, and I've had that position for over 7 years now.
Okay. Dr. Jorgensen, related to the coronavirus pandemic, we've heard a lot about the CDC recommendations of sheltering in place, social distancing, washing your hands, staying home if you're sick, etc.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what do you feel is critical that we all need to be focused on to stop the spread of this virus, or can we?
Yeah, I think all the above are critical, as you pointed out. It's hard to do this. It seems extremely difficult, and I know that the financial aspects of this are tremendous. But this is a very serious time, and it's a very serious virus. The reason why they call it novel is because there are no people on the planet that have seen this before. So, the seasonal flu, for example, there are people that have had that before and they're immune to it, or that they've had a vaccine for it. There are no people on the planet that have seen this virus before. So therefore, it has the potential to rage through the entire population unchecked. So this idea of staying away and staying isolated and keeping yourself protected is pretty much the only viable solution that we have right now. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have antibodies. There is no FDA approved treatment right now. So our only protection from this is, number one, being healthy, so it seems like it's not affected the young as much as the elderly, vulnerable population. So we either are young and healthy and able to fight it off, or we don't get it by being isolated from other people. So it seems radical, but that's all we have right now.
Well, the numbers are staggering. I mean, we see that every day on how it's spreading, and people have to really take this seriously. And as you said, it's something new that we haven't encountered before. So I think people really have to understand that, the social distancing and the staying at home is really critical.
Right. And I have to say that I think that the federal government, the state government, the local governments, the population has really stepped up in a way that in my lifetime I've never experienced. Maybe this is comparable to World War II or something like that, but it just seems that everybody, except for a few nut jobs, has taken this seriously and understands that this is a short-term problem that we can overcome if we all stick together. So I'm pretty amazed by the entire population's response to this.
Dr. Jorgensen, we also wanted to discuss the opioid epidemic in DuPage County today. Can you explain a little bit from your perspective on why this has become such a dangerous concern, not only around the world, but in DuPage County?
Yeah. Well, DuPage County, first of all, as I said, I've lived in DuPage County my whole life. When I was a kid, we had corn farms, and my town of Lombard had 8,000 people in it. So, we've changed a lot in this county, and we are not immune from the problems of the world. And in fact, we are touched by the same problems that occur in Chicago, in the state, and in the country wide. And the major non-COVID virus epidemic that we have right now that's killing our population is the opioid crisis. And when I became coroner in 2012, the next summer in 2013, we had, starting on July 4th, we had a death every single day for an entire month of that July of 2013. And it shocked me so much that I started speaking out about this and trying to raise the alarm for our community of DuPage County. At that year, we had 48 deaths. So at that point, I called it an epidemic of 48 deaths. For the last 3 years, we've had close to 100 deaths every year. So it's doubled in the time when I considered it to be an epidemic for our community. And it has been so for the entire country. So we are maybe reaching a peak of this epidemic, but if I could put it into a very simple statistic, 58,000 people died in the entire Vietnam War. And last year, over 60-some thousand people died of the opioid epidemic in the country. So that means that every year we're losing the equivalent of the Vietnam War every year in this country. It's staggering.
Yeah, when you put it in that perspective, it really is impactful. And
yes, it is.
Dr. Jorgensen, in February, you said at a press conference related to the number of deaths in 2019 in DuPage County, you said, "I'm very disappointed that we have not had a better change. It's virtually the same number." And that's, as you mentioned, over the last 3-4 years.
Yes.
Are you implementing any new programs to focus on bringing the opioid overdose death numbers down in DuPage County in 2020?
Well, we're continuing to do the same thing that we've done, and I truly believe we're starting to turn the battleship around, and that is education, doing what we're doing right now, involving the public with their knowledge of this epidemic, making sure that young kids high school kids, college kids know how dangerous these opioid drugs are. Reaching out to their parents and educating the entire community about this problem. We're also, but we have received a huge grant, $1.16 million grant from the federal government for DuPage County to enact a couple of things. One is medically assisted treatment. The other thing is that involving my office, that we're starting a overdose fatality review board, and we're doing a deep dive into investigating every single opioid death to try to find out, is there something that we missed or that we can look into in a better way or a deeper way to try and understand this epidemic in a way that we haven't understood it before. But you know, just what we're doing today, I think, is critically important. The more we talk about it, the more we educate our population about how dangerous even just taking pain pills when you've had surgery can be, because that's an avenue of addiction as well. So, so this is a critical public service announcement that we're doing right now.
I think it's important, as you mentioned, that behind every death is a story. And it's interesting to me that your office is really going behind every death to learn more.
Right.
That's an approach that I think will pay dividends in the future.
Right. And I think actually, you know, my office typically investigates a case fairly soon after the death, meaning within a month. Some of the knowledge, experiences, and revelations of a person's death may not come out for a year or so concerning this. And what I mean by that is I've talked to many people that have said, you know, I couldn't talk about my son's death. I couldn't wrap my head around his or her addiction until a year later, or until I had time to think about it, or I had time to understand, you know, how did he or she become addicted, and that type of thing. And so like going back and maybe talking to families and brothers and sisters and friends a year later may give us a different insight into the problems of addiction that we weren't able to identify a week or two after the person's death. So I'm hoping that will be the case.
Dr. Jorgensen, is there an average age or demographic of an opioid abuser in DuPage County?
That's a great question, Tom. So when we first started looking at this in 2012 and 2013, the answer to that was that most of the cases were teens and 20s. So about 40% of the deaths were in their 20s, and we had about 10% of the cases in their teens. Now, looking at the cases in 2019, that has moved into the 30s and higher ages, and the 20s is actually decreased. Now, I don't know if that means that we're actually getting the message out there and people are becoming less addicted and they're being careful about it, and so we have less addicts in their 20s. I don't know that yet, but I can tell you that the demographics have changed into an older age group over the last 6 years.
You know, when I was preparing to talk to you, one of the things I was looking at were the statistics related to the opioid deaths. A positive statistic that I saw was the number of opioid saves using Narcan has continued to increase every year for the last 6 years. I think there were 200 saves last year as compared to just 32 in 2014. What do you attribute this increase in saves to, Doctor?
Well, first of all, let me tell you a little about the story about that. So we instituted the first nationwide, countywide first responder program with Narcan. And what I mean by that is every first responder in DuPage County by early 2014 was outfitted with naloxone, which is the antidote for all opioids. And so every police officer that goes out there has Narcan in their squad. And so starting in 2014, we had 30 some, as you said. But now last year we saved the first responders, the policemen in our community saved 207 lives and 750 lives in the entirety of this program. So without this as a backup, as a way of keeping people alive, we would not we would have not been able to save these lives. And so we've considered this to be an incredible program. And oh, by the way, emergency rooms and EMS do the same thing. This is just our first responders. So it's been a great program, and it's been a great thing that our policemen went out and did this and willingly do this every day to try and help save lives.
That's a significant number, and behind every save, there's also a story behind that as well. Is your office keeping statistics and numbers related to the individuals that were saved?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm putting my phone was about ready to die, so I plugged it in. Can you still see me?
Not right now, but I can still hear you.
All right. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get this.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
there we go.
There you go, Doctor. You're back.
We're back. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was saying that the over 200 saves last year alone. I mean, behind every save is a story as well. Is your office also keeping statistics as related to the people that you're saving, or the law enforcement and first responders are saving?
Well, we do keep statistics as far as the number of people and the demographics and things like that. We are limited by the HIPAA laws, which are the laws that protect a person's privacy rights in relationship to their health care in regard to getting deeper stories in regard to that. And we've actually tried to do that. We've tried to get those deeper stories. And most of the time we have found it to be either difficult or impossible to do so, in that we can't get their health histories and health stories because of this federal regulation, which I'm not criticizing it, but everyone has the right to keep their health care private. And most of the people that we've saved do so. So it's been very difficult to get the deeper dive on that question, Tom.
Yeah, Doctor, the last question I have is there anything that the public can do to help in this battle against opioid addiction?
Well, I continue to believe that education, knowledge, and understanding is the number one thing that we can do. And so I think there's been a sea change on our understanding of addiction, number one. So in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe even up to now, there's been a view that this is a criminal activity and that you're an addict and you're going to go to prison if you use heroin. We have very much tried to change that viewpoint to that this is a medical disease, and that we can, through proper rehabilitation and treatment of people's addiction, we can bring that person back to being a productive citizen who is not addicted to, or they're always addicted, who is not using an addictive substance, and return that person to being a productive citizen in society, as opposed to taking that person and putting them in prison as a criminal. I'm not giving a pass to drug dealers or people that are spreading this around. I'm talking about the person who's addicted to anything: gambling, alcohol, opioids, cocaine, anything like that. We, through proper rehabilitation, we can bring them back into a productive society. That, I think, is a difference in the way that we used to think about it as soon as 10 years ago. So number one, to look at it as a medical disease, try to help these people become productive citizens again and get them into rehab and get them back into being a productive citizen again. Number two, understanding, if you understand that, then we can understand that we need to understand that this is something we can change, something that we can move forward with, and not shovel it underneath the rug and not act like DuPage County does not have these problems. You know, I can tell you that every high school in DuPage County has this problem. And we need to address it from the grade school, middle school, high school, and up. And it is not productive to not talk about it. They're doing what we're doing right now and understanding that we have a problem is the best way to address it. So I think by talking about it, understanding it, and accepting that we have a problem is the best way to address this and put it in our past.
Yeah, those are very important things that we can all do, I think, and thank you for bringing that forward. And I want to thank you, Dr. Jorgensen, for participating in this Zoomcast today. And I also want to thank you for all you do in DuPage County for the citizens in DuPage County. So thanks for everything that you do.
Great. And thanks for all you do in training and keeping us safe as well, Tom. So thank you very much, and everybody be safe out there with the COVID.
Thank you, Doctor. You take care of yourself.
Right. You too. Thanks, Tom. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.